Well, dinner's almost ready. Oh, where's Joe?
Gone.
Gone where?
Out, way, to Vienna.
Vienna? Oh, Karen, what's the matter? What's happened?
I told him that I believed you and...
Oh, no. No, you couldn't have. You couldn't have thought that. Didn't he tell you it wasn't true?
Yes, he told me.
You don't believe him?
I don't know what I believe anymore.
Oh, things can't be like this, Karen. It isn't true. You can't think
no, it's beyond that now. Don't talk about it anymore.
You've thought that all these months, and yet you stood by it. Oh, Karen, you've been a good friend. Karen, that woman said, clean our house. Well, then, let's finish cleaning it. It makes no difference now. We might as well pull all the pieces down. I do love Joe. I have loved him. He never knew about it, and he never even thought about me. I think I've loved him since the first day we came here. There it is, Karen. That's all of it.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the three of us.
And can't you believe me now?
Strange. He asked me the same thing.
I see.
Martha? Martha, I'm ready to leave now. You hear, Martha?
Yes. Wait a few minutes. I'll be leaving with you.
Well, the whole thing was most unpleasant. You're well out of it, if you ask me. Martha, I tell you, when I read what those children said about you...
Oh, I don't want to talk about it, Aunt Lily, now or ever.
I know, but you'll be thinking about it. I know. I knew that girl from the first. She never took me in. I saw through her at once, deceiving me with those flowers and bullying the other girls. Why, she had that little rosary right under her tongue.
Oh, Aunt Lily, let's not go into this anymore.
She made that child do dreadful things. I never thought about it at the time. But you know, I've thought for months that she made Rosalie steal Helen Burton's bracelet.
What?
Well, it was the day they left to go to Mrs. Tilford's. Of course, I didn't know they were leaving. I heard them in their room. They were talking about the bracelets, and I'll bet...
Conductor!
Yes, ma'am?
What's the next stop?
Glendale.
Why, Martha, what on earth you...
I'm getting off. I want to see Rosalie, and I want to see Mary Tilford. I want to see them together.
This is a rather unusual request, Miss Tilby.
Yes, but the girls are here, Mrs. Tilford. You sent for Rosalie?
Yes? Oh, come in, Rosalie.
Miss Tilby.
Good afternoon, Rosalie.
Come in, Mary.
What does she want?
Rosalie, I want to speak to you.
Me, Miss Tilby?
Yes, Rosalie. I want to ask you about Helen Burton's bracelet.
Oh, please. Please, Miss Tilby. I didn't mean it. I didn't mean to take it.
Then you did take it.
Yes, but I meant to give it back. I did. Honest.
All right. No one's going to punish you. But now, tell me one thing more. Those stories about me and Dr. Carden, they weren't true, were they?
No, ma'am.
Then why did you say they were?
She made me. Mary made me. She knew I had the bracelet. She was going to tell. She said I'd go to prison.
Oh.
She made me do it. I didn't want to. She made me. Grandma, don't believe her. Don't believe a word she says. She's just trying to get out of it. She's making it all up. She lies all the time. Everybody knows she does. Grandma, don't believe her. You heard what she said that day. You heard her say about it.
Quiet. All my life, the mistakes I've made have been honorable ones. You made me make the first that was dishonorable. Go upstairs to your room. And Rosalie, you wait inside, please. Well, Miss Dobie, there's no use pretending that I know any way to take back what I've done. But whatever little there is to do, a public apology, the damage you've paid in full.
A public apology and money. You think that fixes everything? That's very neat, Mrs. Tilford. If we were puppets on a string whose hearts could be put together again, but... Well, that's not the way things ever happen.
Oh, but let me try to help you. let me do what little I can. Help me?
No. But I'd like you to take the message to Karen. Tell her everything that's happened today, and then tell her to go to Joe, wherever he is. Tell her I said that. Tell her I want her to go.
She said, tell Karen to go to Joe, wherever he is. Tell her when that happens, I'll be all right. She said you'd know what she meant, Miss Wright.
Yes, I know what she meant. I know so well. You'll excuse me, won't you, Mrs. Tilford? I've got to pack. I'm leaving tonight for Vienna.
The music swells, the audience applauds. The curtain slowly falls, bringing our play to its happy conclusion. Checking up on the current doings of our principals, I learned that this first week of December finds Mary Astor just finishing a new film at MGM. Barbara Stanwyck is casting a proud eye on the racehorses at her San Fernando Valley ranch, preparing for the Santa Anita track opening. While Errol Flynn, as I mentioned before, is swinging the quarterstaff and wearing Lincoln green as Robin Hood. I hope, Errol, that your picture is as big a hit as when Douglas Fairbanks played the role just 15 years ago.
Well, thanks, Mr. DeMille. I hope so, too. I remember the old version distinctly. I was at school in Ireland at the time and sneaked out of classes and spent my lunch money for tickets. By the way, what else were you people in Hollywood turning out those days?
Well, many of our listeners will recall Orphans of the Storm with the Gish sisters, produced by D.W. Griffith. I tried to rival it with Fool's Paradise and Manslaughter. My big stars were Dorothy Dalton, Conrad Nagel, Thomas Meehan, and Leatrice Joy. Sound pictures were 4 years away, and Rudolph Valentino was silently elevating the blood pressure of the feminine world. Barbara Stanwyck, in her very early teens, was already dancing in a New York chorus. And Mary Astor... Well, Mary, what does 1922 mean to you?
Well, for one thing, it brings back the hours I spent in my father's room playing with a contraption he'd just built. It consisted of a wire coil, a pair of earphones, a piece of crystal, and a couple of inches of wire known as a cat's whisker. I think Dad called it a radio.
It was the year that The Sheep was no kind of a book for any respectable girl to read. And did we eat it up? And the whole country was humming a tune called April Showers, written by the musical director of this program, Lou Silvers.
Yes, and girls began bobbing their hair, and some of them got fired from their jobs for doing it. Not long afterwards, Lux Toilet Soap came along, and I hear it's made the same fine impression on the Hollywood stars of the 20s as it does today. To me, it's the finest complexion care in the world, and I think Barbara will back me up.
Of course I will, Mary, because I use Lux Toilet Soap every day in the year, and I think that's the best recommendation I could give. Thank you, Mr. DeMille, for another grand evening. And to all our listeners, good night.
And may I add just one word of gratitude to the members of our cast, Alma Kruger, Constance Collier, Marcia May Jones, Helen Parrish, and all the others who helped us so splendidly.
Let me thank you for them, Errol. We look forward to having you, Mary, and Barbara with us again during the new year.
Good night. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Another gala program awaits you next Monday night in the Lux Radio Theater. And Mr. DeMille returns shortly to tell you about it. This is your announcer, ladies and gentlemen, Melville Ruick. Tonight's cast included Dorothy Gray as Helen, Helena Grant as Agatha, Lou Merrill as taxi driver, and Frank Nelson as conductor. Barbara Stanwyck is currently seen in the RKO film Breakfast for Two. Marcia May Jones and Helen Parrish are making Mad About Music at the new Universal Studios. And now, here's your producer, Mr. DeMille. It's a play of melodrama, romance, and strange, dark happenings that awaits you in the Lux Radio Theater next Monday night. A play that carries you from the fog-bound streets of London to the bleak and misty moors of Scotland. Its title, The 39 Steps. Filmed by Gaumont British, it's one of the most successful modern mystery stories ever brought to the screen. As the polished adventurer, caught in the web of violence and intrigue, we star Robert Montgomery. And at the other end of the romantic seesaw, one of the cleverest of our rising young stars, Miss Ida Lupino. Our sponsors, the makers of Lux Toilet Soap, join me in inviting you to be with us again next Monday night when the Lux Radio Theater presents Robert Montgomery and Ida Lupino in The 39 Steps. This is Cecil B. DeMille saying good night to you from Hollywood. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.